Rachel. Hi, I'm Christy. It's good to meet you. Um, I know I'm not actually meeting you, nor have I even ever communicated with you. um, but it feels good to be to feel connected with you in some way. Um, I have been shuffling. I'm using the Wildwood Tarot today for your reading. And wherein wisdom resides is what it said. I really love this book or this deck. It's based on the pagan tradition of the Year of the Wheel, and which is just basically the pagan understanding of seasons and the cycles of the year. And so most of the cards, all of the cards, actually correspond with a tradition or a part of a season of the year, and they are all very nature based. It's earth based spirituality, which I really usually tends to resonate with me the most. But when it comes to any formality of it, just know that I stay fairly neutral. I don't take any religious position, and including pagan, and that a lot of this is just really meant to connect both you and I to spirituality, to the spiritual realm, not necessarily to ground in any one understanding of that spirituality. So, the way that I view it is that usually a religion is created in response to spirituality, and is a way for humans to kind of quantify and identify and label what they're experiencing that tends to be otherwise beyond words. So I have just been a little bit of what works for me, or what I should say, what my pattern and my practice is around tarot is that I do some clearing of my space. I use sage and Palo Santo wood to clear the space and clear the cards, and then I focus on your energy, and I focus on the things that you're asking about, which Rebecca has indicated have to do mostly with career and housing and living situations. And then I focus on that as I shuffle the cards. Um, I have had a couple cards jump out at me as I'm doing this and indicate what part of the spread they want to be in. So I've put them there. I haven't turned them over yet, um, but yeah, usually when a card jumps out like that, it usually means like, oh, hey, I'm the one who wants to be put down, and then I will do your spread here shortly. A little bit about readings. I'm not sure if you've ever had one before. One of the things I like to share with people that I'm reading for is to have a journal or a piece of paper handy with a pen. And the nice thing is you do have a pause button on this. So if something sticks out to you, you can hit pause, make a note of that. As you're making a note of it, don't be so concerned about getting what I say down word for word, but really more about what comes to you, what strikes you about what I said, what your impressions are, or what comes to mind. Maybe even your language for it. So, what you might find is you hear one thing, but what I said was a little bit different, like the language is a little bit different. Write down what you heard, okay? I'm a firm believer that spirit is like, that I'm really just like kind of channeling some messages that spirit wants to share with you, but I'm doing it in my language. Spirit is translating it to you in a way that you understand, in a way that sits with you and strikes a chord with you. So write down what you hear. The second thing is, take what resonates with you, leave behind what doesn't. And I'm a big fan of that practice in anything that has to do with spirituality or anything intangible. And resonation is simply, does it strike a chord? Okay. When you think about resonation, I usually use the metaphor of a guitar. And so when you strike a guitar chord, it vibrates. And then that's what makes the sound, is that vibration. When it's flat, there's no sound. And what we're looking for here are things that strike, that really create that vibration with you. Now, it's tempting to say, well, it made me upset, so it didn't resonate with me. Okay. If it made you upset, it definitely resonated with you. It's just that it's striking a chord of something maybe you're not yet ready to face, or it's something that upsets you for whatever reason. And that's okay. There doesn't have to be any judgment around it. It's just important. It's good to know. Okay. Not everything that resonates is going to resonate a pleasant sound. Sometimes it will be unpleasant. And, I would say compassion and kindness are two of the most important things to keep in mind when you're going through something like this, because just because it resonates and you don't like that doesn't mean it's a bad part of you or it's something that needs to be changed instantly. Sometimes you just need to sit with what comes up. And it may just be emotions that need to be felt or a part of you that needs a little bit of love and nurturing. I've had some really solid teachers who remind me that love and compassion are the most important things we can do for ourselves. And so you may hear that from me often, is that no judgment, just kindness. Okay. So I'm going to flip these over and start laying out some cards for you. You're getting a card I've never gotten to read. I'm really excited about this. And I'll show you this spread as soon as I get it all down. I am using the Celtic Cross spread. It's a pretty typical tarot spread. I like it because, couple cards here. Interesting. Okay. I like it because it tends to be pretty complete and pretty thorough. So I'll show you here. Again, feel free to hit pause so that you can take a deeper look at what you're working with. Okay, so the cards that are directly parallel to me, those represents you. They represent you in three phases. First phase is your recent past. The middle card is your present, and the near future is the right card. Now I'm going to go ahead in the Wildwood Tarot. The suits are different than in traditional tarot. I'm going to go ahead and give you those conversions so that if any of these cards come up and you really want to explore deeper meanings for those, you can. Biddy Tarot is a really good resource for that. Her name is Biddy, B-I-D-D-Y, tarot.com. And she has a place where you can learn the tarot, and she explains kind of generically what they mean. Usually what I suggest is when you do go through that, skim it. Don't try to read for detail. Skim it and find the phrases that stand out to you. That's usually what is wanting to be understood when that card shows up, and you can just write those down in your journal. The card that came up as your present moment card is the Three of Vessels, which is joy. And I love it that these are cranes. I believe these are cranes. Let me look them up real quick. That appear to be dancing in harmony with each other. Yeah, three white cranes. In the meaning, it says, "This celebration within a communal group or family, welcoming the coming of new life or good fortune, the successful return after migration or travel by a group or a tribe or grouping." And so it's kind of like, I think the migration word stands out to me, where it's like, after going from one place to the next, like you've landed and there's this celebration of like, whew, okay, we made it through, we've gotten here safely, and now it's time to put away our travel clothes and have dinner. So I just got off a road trip last week. I flew to Indiana on Monday. So that took all day. So I'm flying from Seattle to Indiana. Um, and then I left Tuesday morning to drive my mom's car back to Seattle, and that took 4 full days. So as we were approaching my house, we'd been on the road for 7 or 8 hours at that point, and I was like, let's go get a margarita. And I called one of my friends. I'm like, do you want to join me? My best friend and I are going to go get Mexican food and get a margarita. And we just sat there and laughed and talked and shared and drank margaritas. And it was kind of this like, okay, we've landed, we got here safely, time to celebrate, time to have a moment where we just acknowledge like, we're off the road, we did what we intended to do, and we're here. So I'm getting that that's kind of what's going on right now is there's, recent past, it was the Ace of Bows, which is spark of life. And so that might even be what sparked off the journey that you're kind of like celebrating the fulfillment of was like that feeling of newness and new things and so no matter what that journey brought you, it's okay to celebrate the good pieces of it. It may not have brought you everything that you were hoping for. And it may not have been all good either, like all seemingly good. Near future is the Seven of Vessels, which is mourning. And it may feel strange, like it may feel like you're doing something wrong. And that something, the mourning may be something you want to avoid. And so the card overlaying those is, it can be considered the bridge or the barrier, and it's the Three of Arrows, which is jealousy. And what we've got here are the arrows piercing the heart. Arrows okay, so those correspond with swords in, those correspond with swords. And in the traditional tarot, swords are communication and words. And I just got the feeling that this is like, be careful what you take to heart right now. And so this could be a bridge or a barrier to that feeling of mourning. Sorry, I'm getting multiple dings on my phone. This could be a bridge or a barrier depending on how you respond. And I like that this is jealousy. How you respond to critical comments or people's opinions on your current state of affairs and also your life in general. If you respond by taking things to heart, and you see how painful that is, even the wood is bleeding, that could lead to a state of mourning. If you respond by having healthy boundaries and protecting yourself, then it will be a barrier to the mourning. There may be a degree of mourning no matter what, because setting healthy boundaries and not allowing certain people to have voice in your life may mean that you have to distance yourself from them. And that can create a state of mourning, especially if those are people like, well, they've always been a part of my life. They've always been important to me, but wow, they are toxic. And wow, they just say the shittiest things to me. And I cannot move forward and with joy with them also being a really relevant part of my life. And maybe you've started that process. Maybe you're already recognizing, like, I need to be setting healthier boundaries with people. It seems like if you set the boundaries, you're still going to experience mourning, but it's going to be a very small degree. Whereas if you really let people in and take everything they say to heart, your mourning will be much greater. And it also may be a mourning just simply of the joy that you've let go of, that you've let people, in a sense, take that from you. Okay, so, and above and below these, I have the hope is above and below is the fears. I I love this card. This is one I've never gotten to read for. Um, this is the Wanderer. This is the Hope, is the Wanderer. And there's kind of this sense of um, freedom, stepping off into the unknown, a hope that you're going to step off into the unknown and be met by a rainbow bridge. This is actually a chasm here. I'm not sure if you can tell that, but um, in the traditional tarot, this is the Fool in the major arcana, and it usually is a symbolism of new beginnings and a new journeys. And I love that in this deck it's the Wanderer, because there's it's a youthful, sometimes juvenile approach. And I think in deep down something, a place in ourselves that we all wish we could reconnect with, which is like that innocence of youth, the innocence of a youth who just believes that things are going to work out for them, and that they're gonna utilize these great big wings of theirs, and they're never gonna crash, right? And and so I think with you, there's this hope that you are setting off on what you're that what you long to leap into is that you can do that with the purity of and innocence of youth. Here's the thing about that. You're never going to be able to return to the naivety of youth, the ignorance of youth, because because you're an adult, and there's a reason that you've been able to learn from your mistakes. However, the firm resolution and belief in yourself that you had as a young person, I think you can reconnect with, and I think you can utilize. And even if you lose that belief, come back to it. It's okay. If you find like, wow, I'm flying. I just had my guru just gave me an example of this, and he said, you're up there and you're flying, and then you have a thought, wait a minute, and you're like, I'm flying, wait a minute, I can't fly, and then you come crashing down. So obviously the experience is proving otherwise. You can fly. But when you have those limiting beliefs, you reestablish the boundary lines to the limiting belief. And so your hope is not for naught. You want to connect with that innocent part of you. I would say it'd be better to reconcile the experienced part of you with the naivety, the innocent part of you, and really infuse it with, okay, yeah, we've fallen, but look, we've been able to get back up. Oh, wait, we can still fly. And it doesn't matter that we've crashed. It doesn't matter that we've lost something. Wait a minute, maybe we didn't lose something. We actually cut it off so that we could be healthy. Wait a minute, we crashed because maybe we weren't flying in the direction that our heart was aligned with, or that we knew we should be going. So it's really about kind of like elevating the experiences that you had, moving them out of the shadowy corners and out of the, wow, I'm busted and broken places, and elevating them to like, yes, I'm busted and broken, but I've healed and my wings still work just fine. I can still soar. I can still do these things. In the fears category, we have the Ace of Stones, which is the foundation of life. And it seems like maybe there is some fear that your foundation is not strong enough, that you don't have all of the things and the experience and the wisdom you need to get there. We'll confront that in a minute. Your approach to everything that's going on here, to where you are, and also I am hearing your approach to the two things you're mostly concerned about, which are your career and your living situation, is a deep sense of healing, and more specifically, healing the masculine. So Contained within all of us, we have masculine and feminine energies. Most of us tend to lean more toward one or the other, though there are individuals who are balanced between them. But I'm talking, and I'm not talking about gender roles, okay? I'm not associating masculine with male gender roles or feminine with female gender roles. In any way, the societal roles we've given to each other. I'm more so referring to masculine and divine masculine and divine feminine energies. And those do tend to be, they still tend to contain an element of what we've assigned as gender roles to people, but they're pure. So masculine tends to focus on protection, warrior energy, willing to fight for what's good and right to them, and to protect those that they love, or to protect things they love, ideas and energies. Feminine is more nurturing, right? Like they're more able to like really help mold and shape and develop and nurture something into existence. They tend to be protective in a different way. They tend to be more protective in like the way that a hen sits on its eggs. Like that's more the feminine. Whereas the masculine might go out and say, no, these are my boundaries. You can't cross them, and guard them with their arrows. And so healing, your approach to it is healing the masculine. And I mentioned this to Rebecca, so maybe you guys can buy this book and share it. But Women Who Run with the Wolves, written by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Estes, is a wonderful how-to on healing the divine masculine. She talks a lot about the animagus, and that is in her, she works with Jungian psychology, so archetypal stuff, and animagus is the masculine, the divine masculine parts of ourselves. And it's a really, what she talks about is it's really important that the animagus is empowered. For a lot of women, the animagus has been disempowered because women have not traditionally and historically been allowed to have masculine qualities, right? We've all talked about how, like, yeah, a man in power is driven, whereas a woman in power is a bitch, right? Or a man in power is assertive, where a woman in power is aggressive, right? And how those are just interpreted so differently. So what we've done from an early age is learn to disempower our masculine tendencies so that we don't get criticized and ridiculed. And what her argument is that the animagus, the divine masculine, really needs to be empowered so that it can work in harmony with the feminine. For some of us, we lean more toward masculine, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay, because that's how we were wired, and it's also how we bring about our version of change in the world. It's how we bring about the world coming into itself and coming into a deeper place of harmony. So what I would suggest is grabbing that book and doing some work on your inner masculine, really loving it into a place of strength and power. Excuse me, I had a chest cold. Because your feminine needs that aspect to help balance the feminine out. What can happen when the masculine is disempowered is that the feminine then is hyper involved, and I actually think that is when we do get like the bitchy tendencies or the aggressive tendencies, is when the feminine has to carry the load of the masculine, and it doesn't know how to work in harmony, and so they're both then out of balance with each other. And so doing some healing work with the masculine, I know it doesn't feel like an answer to the specific like career and housing issues, but I promise you that bringing those two into balance is going to help bring clarity on the questions that you have. I was just sharing this with someone else, but what I find is when I ask Source and Spirit, God, universe, for direction on these things, they usually tell me to share what the journey looks like to get to the answers, not necessarily the answers. And I think the reality of that is because the answers are for you to choose. What universe wants you to do is come into a place where you feel like you really have a clear idea on what the best choice would be for you. And then you're able to make that. What I've found is, and I think that the way the universe operates, way universe spirit operates, is that we are much more empowered humans when we make the choice for ourselves rather than being told this is the best choice for you. When we can come to a place where we are really confident in ourselves and really confident in our path and really confident in the choice, then that choice becomes our choice and we can live that out with confidence. I really don't think universe spirit is here to create drones and drones? That's not the word. Clones, maybe, of themselves. I don't think they're here to create soldiers who will just mimic their every order and do whatever they tell them to do. I think they're really here to help us come into our own so that we feel empowered and strong enough to make decisions. Now, that also needs to be in balance with, in my opinion, consulting universe, higher self to say, can you help guide me? You know, can you help me navigate this path? I think there's a really important lesson in humility there, but I think it's a balance. I don't think that humility is the same as being disempowered. I think humility is understanding our place in the world, but being empowered to really live into that place, to really live into these fully functional spiritual beings that just happen to have a human form. Okay. So then what you need to know Two of Bows, decision. I love that it looks like that this guy looks like his hair is on fire. He's like, if you're being confronted with two choices, sit with them. Okay. The tendency may be to feel like I got my hair's on fire. I'm raging to make a decision. Don't do it. Okay. Sit with it. Pray about it. Meditate on it. Whatever that looks like for you. Ask your heart what it wants. And then be willing to listen to it. Okay. You may find that you knew that all along and you just needed the encouragement to make the decision, or you may find that like your ego's like, but I wanted something else, and you have to really stick by and honor your heart. But regardless, sit with the decision. Don't feel push or pull from anyone or even yourself to make a rash decision. It's important that you I'm not going to say weigh the options, because that really tends to be that you're bringing logic into it, and really you want to sit with your heart and go with what your heart says. And if you have trouble discerning that, ask just 2 or 3 trusted people that you know you. And when you ask them, say, I have a feeling this is what my heart is saying, but then I have all these other reasons not to listen to that. Let them help you discern what your heart is saying, especially if this is something that's new to you. Listening to our hearts is another thing that we have totally cut ourselves off from, because a lot of times, being women in the world, listening to our heart was so, it's dangerous, but it's also so discouraged. Because honestly, I think the world is afraid of women who pursue their heart, because our hearts are really our power. They are really what moves us forward into lives that are big and full and I'm getting like all encompassing, that are really magical and have the power to make a difference, not only in our lives, but the lives around us. So that fear has often caused us to cut ourselves off from listening to our heart. So if that's a new practice for you, find and surround yourself with people who know what your heart is and can help you hear that voice. There's a quote, it's actually what inspired me to move to Oregon. It's by Rumi. He's a Sufi poet. And he says, set your life on fire, seek those who fan the flames. And I love that idea that it's like, do what you need to do to pursue the life you want. And then only surround yourself with people who are just going to stand there and like, yes, burn, burn, baby, burn, right? They're going to help you burn your passions into existence. They're going to help you burn away the old things as well. All right. So in conclusion, there are 2 cards that came up. And one is the 9 of Bows, which is dedication. And the other is 10 of Bows, which is responsibility. And really what I'm getting from these is that it's time for you to check these 2 areas, especially of your life. What do you feel dedicated toward? And is that still something that is serving you well and resonates with your heart and your life's path? What responsibilities have you taken on? And are those yours or are they someone else's? If there's someone else's, they need to be put down and let go of. They need to be put aside. This journey is too long to carry anyone else's responsibilities but your own. Are they yours? And if so, how can you own that responsibility? How can you really take that onto yourself and say, okay, I will make sure that this responsibility I have is seen through to the nth degree. Now, I want you to put yourself in this scenario too. Are you dedicated to yourself? Are you fully dedicated to who you are and your life's purpose on this earth? Are you dedicated to your heart and listening to your heart and acting on its behalf? Have you taken responsibility for caring for yourself, for loving yourself, for embracing yourself in all of who you are? Because that is one of our greatest responsibilities on this earth, no matter what responsibility or action we take for anyone else, it all has to start with ourselves. Are we willing to show ourselves the greatest compassion possible? Are we willing to step outside the box, to step outside of other people's opinions of ourselves and really hold ourselves with kindness, love, compassion, and high esteem? Are we willing to do that? Because we are deserving of it and we are in need of it. You are in need of it. Okay, I'm getting that I should just draw one more card, although I feel like this has been a pretty full reading. Okay, this is why. 4 of Stones. And this card always reminds me of Stonehenge, so it has that like magical spiritual element to it. It also has some symbolism on the stones. But it has this new like fledgling baby. So I have a feeling that all of this work that I just kind of spewed on you with being dedicated to yourself, listening to your heart, all of that, it's all very new to you. You are the baby deer. And like a deer may feel like a deer in headlights, like, I just want to reassure you, you're being protected, okay? You're not being brought these messages without a firm barrier of protection around you so that you have some space to incubate the ideas, grow them, and nurture them into a into their fullness, okay? In other words, you're not alone. I am with you, is what I'm hearing. I am with you. You are not alone. Okay, that brings us to about time. Please feel free to let me know if you have any questions, concerns, comments. You're welcome to friend me on Facebook and message me from there, or if you want to pass them on through Rebecca, you're welcome to do that as well. Usually, what a little Forewarning though, if it is something that is beyond me, I will not hesitate to tell you, and I will usually guide you back to your meditation and prayer time, that question or concern. But if it's something like, oh, hey, can you show me that card? Or, oh, hey, I didn't quite understand what you meant by this, let me know. And if I can clear it up, I will. It was wonderful sharing with you. I really hope this serves you well. Please feel free to give me feedback either way. Many blessings to you. Namaste.